Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. It is Thursday, May 30th, 2019. My name is Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon.
What's up?
Right across from me. And today on the Fantasy Champions Podcast, we are going to talk about our 11 to 20, our final ranking show for a little while, at least. And we're going to talk about 11 to 20 tight ends. These are guys that are sleepers. We're going to talk about guys like Noah Fant and TJ Hawkinson. Ooh. If you're worried or wondering where they might finish in 2019, we're going to tell you. Before we get into that, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the FF Champs and at the Fantasy Champions. You can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/the Fantasy Champions. Subscribe wherever you listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube. Make sure on YouTube you click the bell, leave a review, and share this podcast with your friends. Let's start out with a very intriguing question because we're talking about tight ends. What round would you start drafting tight ends?
Probably the 10th is when I start to
10th round.
Look at tight ends. If a guy who's projected to go a little higher and is starting to fall in like the 8th or 9th round, obviously, and even the 7th round, like you got to look at those guys that are falling in the draft that you're like, why is this guy falling in the draft? And
yeah.
Maybe there's just guys in your league that doesn't like that particular player.
Right.
But generally, I'd say the 10th round because that's when you kind of get. You know, we talked about Tuesday with Njoku, who's going in the 10th round.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's much of a difference between David Njoku and our fourth guy, O.J. Howard. And O.J. Howard's going in, I think, the 6th round.
Right.
So if you want to take a guy in the 10th round, I think that's where the value starts to match up.
Yeah, definitely. For me, my strategy is no quarterbacks, no tight ends until round 10, like you said. I don't even want to draft a tight end in round 10. For me, it's all after round 9. It's all based on ADP. It's figuring out what round do I think I can get one of the tight ends that I think might break out in 2019, and that's the round I'll draft a tight end. So generally speaking, I'm okay drafting a tight end after the 10th round. Like if I'm sitting there at 10 and you have a guy like Hunter Henry or David Njoku, I will take them. But otherwise, I'm waiting probably till pick 13, 14.
Rounds, really?
Yeah, rounds to draft a tight end because to me, what is the difference between Austin Hooper and Trey Burton? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
there really isn't one.
There isn't.
So I think the reality is like, yeah, some of these guys are going to be ranked higher or lower than others, but to me, there's such a large tier 3 and tier 4 of tight ends that it doesn't really matter what round after 10 you take a tight end as long as you take one that you think is going to break out. So for me, after round 10 is usually pretty good. For you, after round 10 is pretty good. Yep. Staying consistent. That's what we do in this show.
Pretty much.
Consistency wins fantasy championships. Today, we discuss our final rankings or early draft rankings. And we're going to talk about tight ends 11 through 20. So let's get started with tight end number 11, Eric Ebron. We finished the last show a little bit discussing Jack Doyle and Eric Ebron. Ebron is an interesting little tight end because I don't like him.
Yeah, your favorite player in the league.
Yeah, my favorite player in the league. I don't like Eric Ebron at all. I have him ranked 11. You have him ranked 11, and the ECR has him ranked 15.
Is he really 15?
Yeah, I'm going to confirm that.
I think he's higher up. I saw that he was getting like 6th or 7th.
Let me just look. I'm pretty sure he's 15.
Well, I mean, if he's 15,
then we feel bad about what we were ranking him at.
Yeah, because Ebron. I mean, you hate Ebron with a passion.
I'm sorry, I typed the wrong number. He is ECR is 8.
Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, that makes more sense. I mean, Ebron to me, you know, you hate him with a passion, and I understand that because you love Jack Doyle. I don't like Ebron either. I think he's overrated.
Yeah.
Not for the same reasons you do. Well, actually, some of the same reasons, but I think there's 2 tight ends in that offense, and the only way Ebron's going to be a top 10 fantasy tight end to me is if Jack Doyle gets injured again, which is a possibility, which is why I had him at 11, to be honest with you.
Right.
But if both guys are fully healthy, I don't see Ebron being a top 10 fantasy tight end. I just don't think there's enough targets to go around with 2 tight ends in that offense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the only reason why Eric Ebron was as high as he was last season in fantasy points is because of the touchdown rate. He was catching touchdowns.
And he had a few big games.
Yeah, he had a few really big games. But when you have a guy on your fantasy team that is catching touchdowns at that rate, obviously tight ends who catch touchdowns at the rate that he was, obviously are going to be extremely highly rated. His touchdown rate last year, 11% of his target share was a touchdown. Just to give you a little perspective, in the past, he was 4%, 1%, 7%, and 2%. So he is expected to regress in that category. And for me, when I look at Eric Ebron, if he didn't get he didn't get a ton of yardage, and he was a tight end that was targeted a lot, but he didn't produce at an extremely high rate. And like I said, the touchdowns were the main thing. So for me, when I look at Eric Ebron, I think that he is going to fall down a lot from where I think he finished, like what was 4.
Oh yeah.
I think he's going to fall down a lot into that back end, you know what I mean?
People are going to draft him very high, though.
10. People are going to draft him very high because they like him. I've even gotten backlash on Twitter from people who hate who love Eric Ebron. I just don't think it's the same reason that I feel about Phillip Lindsay. I don't think you can continue to produce at this level, and there's certain regression that's going to happen when you catch touchdowns at a crazy rate. All right. Trey Burton is the number 12 tight end on our rankings. I have him ranked 10. You have him ranked 12. ECR has him, I believe it is 14. Let me confirm that. My numbers seem to be wrong today.
Yeah,
he is 14. I'm right.
Okay, there you go.
I'm right this time. Trey Burton. I actually really like Trey Burton. I think he had a lot of opportunity last year, but he didn't follow through. And that is a little bit concerning. But I think he has a high ceiling. If they start throwing him the ball, to be honest with you, that whole offense is kind of a mess when it comes to receivers.
It is. It's a big mess. Now it's crazy because you're right. Trey Burton at this point is our 12th ranked tight end.
Yeah.
Is there much of a difference between Trey Burton and Evan Ingram, who was ranked 5th?
No.
That's crazy. Like, there's no other positions that we've done that you could look at the 12th ranked player and the 5th ranked player and be like, now there's a difference, but it's not big.
Yeah.
You know, I like Trey Burton too. I think he's good. I drafted him in a lot of leagues last year because I was very high on him going into the year, and he kind of disappointed. But he showed flashes of, being really good and really solid fantasy tight end. The hope is Trubisky gets a year older, another year in Trey Burton with that offense. They use him more. He gets used to the system more.
Right.
So I like Trey Burton, and I think, would you say he's going in like the 13th round?
12th or 13th.
12th or 13th round.
Yeah.
I'm taking him if
Perfect.
he's there.
Yeah. He's a guy that, you could take, and would you say that he could break out like Kittle?
Not quite like Kittle, but yeah.
Is it a possibility?
Sure.
All right. That's what you're looking for in these late rounds, is these younger guys who have a possibility of breaking out. You have to it's hard to predict a breakout. Like, nobody who drafted Kittle last year thought he was going to finish the third best tight end. But you kind of have to look at it and say, can this guy break out? And it's what in the fantasy universe is what you call a sleeper. That's what you call a sleeper, is a guy who you think might break out. If he doesn't, he doesn't. It's not going to break your team. You got him in the 12th round, but he's a good player. I think Trey Burton can have a good season next year. It's just a lot of the target share in Chicago is kind of freaked out.
I also don't know how much do you trust Mitch Trubisky.
Not at all.
And the Bears' offensive throwing the ball a lot.
Yeah, I don't trust him at all. Another guy we talked about on our previous show on the news, he came back into practice, our number 13th ranked tight end, Delaney Walker. You have him 17, ECR is 12, and I have him 12. Delaney Walker is a little bit interesting of a player because he does get a lot of targets, but he doesn't produce at a high level, and he's always kind of injured. So like he'll have 4 games in a row that he plays, and then he gets hurt for 2 games, and then he comes back for 4 games, and then he gets hurt for 2 games, and it's just kind of that back and forth that you have with this guy all season. And so I think for Delaney Walker, he's a guy that if you can pick out the right moment to play him, he's a good streaming option. Because right around, I would not expect anyone, if you're in a 12-team league, there might be 14 or 15 owned tight ends. If you're in a 10-team league, there's usually about 12 to 13 owned tight ends. So right now, right where this is, you're probably getting to the cutoff where people are actually owning certain guys.
Right.
If there are 17, 18, 19 tight ends owned in a 1 tight end league, then you're lost your freaking...
You're porked.
Yeah, you're porked. you're getting guys like CJ Uzama.
The reason, that's true. The reason I have Delaney Walker a little lower than you and ECR. He's old. I think there's a chance Ryan Tannehill's going to be throwing to him. He's injured a lot. I don't like Delaney Walker, not that much, and not really. And even so,
are you a Delaney Walker hater?
No, man. Don't call me a hater, bro.
Don't call me a hater.
I think he's okay. But at this point in the draft, I'm not looking for a guy who I think is okay. If I'm drafting the 13th or 12th, a tight end this late in the draft.
Yeah, 13th round.
I'm looking for somebody who can, as you said, break out.
34 years old.
I'm looking for a sleeper. I'm not looking for a guy that I think will be the 11th ranked tight end or 10th ranked tight end.
I agree.
So that's why I'm staying away from Delaney Walker. He's okay, but I don't see any way he finishes in the top 5 in tight ends.
Right. I 100% agree with that. Is that if you're this late in the draft, and I don't know why I ranked him so high, maybe because I think he might have a couple of good games, but if you're looking at Delaney Walker, he's for me, when you get late in the draft for quarterbacks and when you get late in the draft for tight ends, right, you have to think youth and you have to think talent. Right. And if you have a guy that's very young and very talented, like don't be going out and drafting Will Dissly because Will Dissly is not a talented tight end.
Dude, don't diss on the Dissly, bro.
But Delaney Walker's 34 years old. He's an old man. Like, he's not going to have a big-time bust-out season. He might finish in the top 10, but what does that mean for a fantasy football tight end? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not really a huge cushion for him. So, I mean, for me, in the past couple years, he's gotten... Last year, he was hurt for most of the season, but in the past 4 seasons that he played, he had 106 targets in 2014, 133 targets in 2015, 102 targets in 2016, and 111 targets in 2017. The 3 best seasons of his career were all under... what's the quarterback's name? Marcus Mariota.
Yeah.
So... If he was to get 110, 115 targets, and he was to convert that at a 60% catch rate, then you're talking about right around 70 catches. And if that's what he's getting, and he's
then he's
catching balls, then he's probably a top 5 tight end. Yeah, and
I don't see that happening though. And
I don't see that happening.
I think Tannehill's probably going to play half the year, knowing Mariota and his injury history.
But it looks like Mariota has a little bit of a connection with Delaney Walker. So if they both play,
he does have a decent amount.
Then we'll see what happens. But for me, you're right. Age is a big contributor into why I probably wouldn't draft Delaney Walker in the 13th round. He might be a guy that if you feel like drafting 2 tight ends, you get like a sleeper late, and then you draft Delaney Walker just to start game 1.
I was thinking the same thing, yeah.
But I don't even know if I want to take up 2 roster spots with tight ends. The number 14th ranked tight end, Jordan Reed of the Washington Redskins. I have him ranked 16. You have him 14, and the ECR has him 17. Jordan Reed has been a guy that he's been one of these guys that's extremely talented. Like, it's clear that he has the talent.
Yeah.
For some reason, the man can't freaking translate it. He struggled to come out and play at a high level. He only had 1 season where he had 114 targets, or 100 plus targets, I should say. In that season, he had 952 yards and 11 touchdowns. That was 2015. Mm-hmm. And so for me, when you look at Jordan, I was going to say Delaney Walker. When you look at Jordan Howard, he's talented enough to do that. But at the same time, it's like it's hard for him for some reason to break out into that role. He had 84 targets last year, which isn't bad.
See,
but it's just he's a guy. He's one of those guys. He's a little bit like you said. He's on the older side. You know what I mean? He doesn't have this.
He's starting to get there. Yeah, but I mean, he's still not.
What is he? 26, 27?
He's 28.
28. Yeah. So he's getting on the older side for a tight end. But he might be a guy that cracks into the top 7. You know what I mean? That you're like, okay, here we go. He comes back. Like if he can have another year like he did in 2015, then that's a great guy to have. But what are the chances of that happening in a Washington Redskins offense that barely has a quarterback?
Dude, don't diss on Haskins, bro. Come on now.
I don't even think Haskins is going to start.
He might not. They might go with McCoy to start the year. Haskins will eventually start. But anyway, I have Jordan Reed a little higher, just a little higher. Just because I think people are forgetting Jordan Reed a little bit. I mean, last year he had 84 targets in 13 games, which is pretty good if you think about that. He only had 2 touchdowns. If he gets some more red zone opportunities and some more touchdowns, he's going to get the points. If you look at everybody else in that Redskins offense, too, who's their number 1 receiver?
No one.
Some crap bag.
Yeah.
Jordan Reed is their number 1 receiver.
Yeah, that's
to
true.
Answer your question.
That's true.
Or my question, I should say. Dwayne Haskins, I think once he plays, I think he'll be okay. So it's just a personal thing.
Yeah.
That I think him and Jordan Reed will find a connection because I do believe in Haskins.
You hope.
To a point. So yeah, I think Jordan Reed should be considered a little higher than he is right now. He should be with the guys like Trey Burton and those other guys where he has upside of being a top 7 or 8 tight end who, if you're getting that guy, I mean, he's probably going undrafted in a lot of leagues.
Right.
Or if he's getting drafted, it's like 15th round.
Right.
That's somebody you should keep an eye on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do really like Jordan Reed. Maybe it's because I've been burned by him several times because I really do like him. According to, we're starting to get a little bit of ADP, consensus ADP from Fantasy Pros, but according to that, Jordan Reed is getting drafted at 179.
That's
so that's like the 17th.
undrafted.
Yeah, undrafted. So I mean, for a guy that's undrafted, if he doesn't land on your fantasy team, Fantasy Pros, like I said, has him ranked 17th. With that being said, he's going to be an undrafted guy. He's not going to be, but he's a guy that you can snag, put on your team, and maybe he can succeed, maybe he can't succeed, but he's not a guy that I'm going out and charging off, running after.
For sure.
15th round, I'm sitting there going, "Oh, I gotta get Jordan Reed." No, I'm not. I would let him go, see what the matchup looks like week 1, and then try to pick him up and see if that rolls out. Number 15 in our rankings, Vance McDonald. I have him 17, so I'm a little further down than you. You have him 10, and the ECR has him 10. And I'll tell you why I don't like Vance McDonald, and then you can tell me why you like Vance McDonald. This is where things get a little bit dicey in terms of where we
all these
rank
guys are so though. You can go into any order,
right? But Vance McDonald, to me, I started statting out some of the statistics for the Steelers and how much they actually throw it to tight ends and how much they've thrown it to tight ends in the past. And the concern for me is that last year you had a season where the Pittsburgh Steelers threw the ball an insane amount. And I talked about that in the past. 689 passing attempts for Ben Roethlisberger. That's crazy.
Ridiculous.
That's not going to happen again. I will guarantee you that that's not going to happen. I think that Ben Roethlisberger will throw not 590 to 595 targets. I don't think he'll crack 600 because he's only done it twice in his career. Historically, the team has thrown it to the tight end position about 18% of the time. So if they throw it 18% of the time, you're only going to see about 10% of the target share go to Vance McDonald. And if McDonald only gets 10% of the target share, he's only going to get 60 targets. Is that a good sign for people who want Vance McDonald? Because there's a lot of people that are like, oh, Vance McDonald, he's going to break out. He's going to break out. I don't think so. Because you have targets. You have James Conner. You have Juju Smith-Schuster. You got James Washington, Donta Moncrief. You got some good options there.
See, that's where I differ. Because I think now that AB is gone,
they're not going to throw it to Vance McDonald. They're just not.
So I don't think Vance McDonald's going to be top 3 tight end or anything like that.
Right.
But they are going to throw it to Vance McDonald.
I gave him 10%.
What did he get last year?
I don't know. I can pull that up right now.
Yeah, so pull that up because I think that'll make a difference. Because now that AB's gone, he took an insane amount of the targets.
He had 11% last year.
So
and because
he had 11% last year.
He had 11% last year, and they threw it 689 times. So him at 11% of 689 is, I don't know how many targets he had last year.
Okay, but now, so you can take out, so you can do the numbers and say, well, they'll throw the ball less.
Yeah.
But who took up the most targets last year? Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
By far. He's gone. So yeah, Nate Washington, I think will get
James Washington.
Nate Washington, James Washington, George Washington, don't matter. He'll get some more targets, but you know who else should get some of those AB missed targets?
Yeah.
It'll be Vance McDonald.
Yeah,
and he showed flashes last year of being, like, obviously everybody refers to the Monday Night Play.
Yeah.
He showed flashes last year being legit. Like, he has upside. He's got potential. He has the opportunity to be a starting tight end.
See, that's where I disagree. Leagues. I just don't think they're going to pass it enough.
I already forgot his name. Nate Washington? James Washington. What is it?
George Washington.
George Washington. It doesn't matter.
James Washington.
He's not gonna be a number, like,
I think James Washington
Juju's gonna get targets. Juju's gonna get targets.
We're just gonna call him Nate the rest of the year.
Like I said, Juju's gonna get his targets.
Yeah.
No, I don't think anybody else in the Steelers offense will be like. There's nobody else in that offense that's going to get a lot of targets.
Yeah. So
and yeah, sure, that includes Vance McDonald, but I think out of everybody, he might get the second most.
The biggest thing about the Pittsburgh Steelers is that they give about 20%, 60% go to the wide receivers normally, and 20% go to the running backs. That's just historical. They have had in 2016, they did throw it to the tight end position 21% of the time. If that does happen, I could see Vance McDonald getting an increased production, but I even gave Xavier Grimble a little bit too many targets. But even if you do that, like, say he gets up to the 80 target range, his catch rate is freaking 55%. So he's not going to be able to produce at an extremely high level.
Yeah, I don't think his ceiling is insanely high. But
yeah,
you mentioned that in the past the Steelers tend to throw the ball to the receivers a lot.
Yep.
Versus the tight ends and such. But in the past they've had Antonio Brown and Juju. In the past they've had Antonio
Jesse
Brown
James,
and
bro.
Whoa, dude, completely forgot. Now that Jesse James ain't there, that means Vance McDonald's going to get even more targets.
Oh boy. You want to move on to the next?
Yes, please.
16th ranked tight end is Chris Herndon IV.
Dun, 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 dun.
Now the only New York Jets tight end.
Probably never heard of this guy.
Yeah, most people, unless you play fantasy football, have never heard of this guy. I have him ranked 13. You have him ranked 18. ECR has him ranked 11th. We don't know what we're going to get from Sam Darnold. I like Chris Herndon. I think he's talented, and I think he showed pops last year, like flashes of being really good. I think the chance that he has a breakout season and turns out to be really good are like 2%. I like him, and I ranked him at 13, but that's just because he's one of those younger tight ends.
Yeah.
He's one of those younger tight ends in a young offense, and they may throw it to him. I'm not sure if they're going to throw it to him. I don't know what Adam friggin' Gase is going to do. No one does, but I really do like Chris Herndon. I think he's talented, and I think he's got a lot of opportunity. And if Sam Darnold takes a step forward this year, which many people expect to happen, then Chris Herndon could be a successful guy.
Yeah, I mean, I have him a little lower just because, honestly, like, I don't think he proved a lot last year. I know he did show a few flashes, but
Yeah.
going from what I saw, I wasn't crazy impressed. But he is very young, and I do tend to like the strategy of going with the young guys. And he has an opportunity. Right. The Jets don't have many weapons on that team, and I do think Darnold's going to take an increase next year. I just, I don't know about the Jets as a whole, like for offense.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the situation. I mean, Adam Gase did have somewhat of a decent offense with Miami.
He did, but
it's just not going to be prolific.
It's with not. A lot of. If you looked at those Miami teams, it was usually used with a lot of different guys.
Yeah.
So for fantasy outlooks, it wasn't necessarily right. He used 2 running backs. There was like 3 or 4 receivers that always got involved.
There is also, outside of Le'Veon Bell, not a lot to throw to. And
that is true.
If
Robbie Anderson,
Chris Herndon could be a very, very good wide receiver. I don't know why I keep calling them wide receivers.
I mean, essentially tight.
Yeah, essentially. Chris Herndon could be a really good player, but I actually don't think his ceiling is that high. And so I think that he could finish as like at the 8th.
I don't think he has like top 5.
I don't think he has,
but he could be top 10.
Maybe he could be, but he's one of those younger guys that you should keep an eye on, because if there's not a lot of targets going around, and then you watch in the preseason, the target share is going a lot to the, when Sam Darnold's on the field, the target share is going a lot to Chris Herndon. Then keep an eye on that. But I don't like Chris Herndon's one of those guys that's most likely. It doesn't look like he's getting drafted. At this point, I think 14th, 15th round, if not completely undrafted. The number 17th ranked tight end is Greg Olsen, older guy with a little bit of upside, as much as you can have. He's been a good tight end over the course of his career, but he is getting up there in age. I have him 15, you have him 19, and ECR has him 16. So Greg Olsen, he's one of those guys that is very disconcerting to me. If you draft him, be prepared for injury. If you put him on your team, be prepared for him to get hurt. He's going to get targets. Cam Newton does like to throw it to tight ends. He has been very good in the time that he has started, but he just has had trouble staying on the field. And I think that's more specifically why he's ECR'd at 16 and is 17 on our list. And it's just because he's so inconsistent and so injury prone that it's not even worth having him. At this point, he's an older guy that doesn't really have a lot of upside for me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I don't think he has a lot of upside. I have him really low because I just don't think he'll play a lot this year again. I think he'll probably play under 10 games. When he's out there, he'll be good. Last 2 seasons, he's played under 10 games.
Yeah.
So I don't know. He's 34 years old, which for a tight end is like 50. So you look at those 2 things combined. When he's out there, Cam Newton does like to throw to tight ends, as you said. And he's old, but he can catch the ball if it's thrown to him, Mm-hmm. So he's still pretty good overall, but
this guy falls into the bucket of guys you don't want to draft because they're old.
I'm not taking Greg Olsen.
Number 18 on our draft rankings, Noah Fant.
Your guy.
Now, this guy is going 21 on ECRs. I have him 18. You have him 16. I'm actually surprised you ranked him higher than me. More specifically because I love Noah Fant.
Yeah. I have both the rookies very high, though.
Yeah, you do. But Noah Fant, for me, I need to temper myself a little bit.
Go ahead.
Because I found out some fantastic news the other day. Not only does, Mr. Joe Flacco like to throw it to the tight end position,
yes,
but
Joe Flacco, yes.
The Denver Broncos' new offensive coordinator, Rick Scangarello, loves to throw it to tight ends as well.
Oh.
So when you put those 2 together, you're going to get targets for Noah Fant. If he gets a significant portion of targets, like 80 to 100, I think the guy could be a top 5 tight end.
If that,
but
that's a kind of a hot take.
It is. I like hot takes though. So. I do like Noah Fant. I think that a lot of stuff is adding up for his success, and the only thing stopping Noah Fant is Noah Fant.
I think the only thing stopping Noah Fant is Joe Flacco.
Would you stop roasting Joe Flacco?
Look,
Your
dude,
hatred for Flacco and Eli Manning is unreal.
I don't hate Flacco, especially like in real life. Fantasy wise, I do hate Flacco.
Oh, I agree, but that doesn't mean he's not going to throw it to Noah Fant.
No, he might, but there's still like I think Cortland Sutton will probably get more targets.
Yeah.
I think Emmanuel Sanders will get more targets.
Obviously, they're wide receivers.
And Joe Flacco's like max touchdowns is like 20 to 25.
Yeah, but so I statted out this man's, and I only gave him like 5 touchdowns. So
okay, so
something like that. But it's not. It's not.
I have him ranked higher than you. I have both.
And I like him better than you.
Oh yeah, but I have
maybe I'll make some.
I have Hawkinson's even higher. The Hawkster.
The Hawk.
I mean, Flacco's thrown over 25, so over 25 touchdowns once in his career.
Yeah.
One time.
He doesn't do it a lot, but when you look at that offense, I mean, yes, people are excited about Deshaun Hamilton and people are excited about Cortland Sutton, and you have Emmanuel Sanders still there. People are excited about those 3 guys. I mean, I've heard people talk so much about Cortland Sutton. And it's
dude,
like
you were on that train like 2 months ago.
Yeah, I was. Well, I still kind of am, but we'll see what happens. And then you got like Phillip Lindsay, who can't catch a ball for his life, and Royce Freeman.
He's actually
also
pretty good at catching the ball.
Go look at his receiving numbers.
It's okay.
We disagree on Phillip Lindsay quite a bit.
I mean, not really. I think you just have extra hatred towards him.
I do. Anyway, so I think that Noah Fant has opportunity to succeed. I have never seen 2 tight ends get drafted this high.
Oh, in NFL draft?
In an NFL draft. So I'm curious to see how they're utilized, because usually you stay away from wide receivers, because unless that wide receiver is drafted into a situation where they have a good quarterback and he's the only wide receiver, that guy's generally not going to succeed. Usually you see guys like Calvin Ridley get drafted to sit behind a Julio Jones.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about a guy like Noah Fant, he's coming into a situation where there's not a ton of targets. Like you said, there's not a ton of targets to go around, but at the same time, there's not a ton of targets to throw to. So I think that Noah Fant will get his share of the pie, and I think that if and when he gets the share, what he does with that is very important. Like if he catches 40% or 50% of his passes, then that's not good. That's not going to be a good look for Noah Fant. But if he catches 65 to 70% of his passes and a couple of touchdowns, then you're talking about a guy who can finish in the top 5. That's why I like Noah Fant. I think he's talented enough to succeed, and he's going to get enough targets to succeed. It's just a matter of stepping into that window. And he's also extremely young.
So, I think long-term, like Dynasty League, hop on Noah Fant for sure. But
I'm going to grab Noah Fant.
This year, I'm not. I do have him pretty high because, again, like the chance of breakout.
There are so little tight ends in this league that
there are. That too.
Fluxing in a couple of new ones is going to make a complete difference.
Yeah, that's true.
Number 19 on our tight end rankings. We only got one more ranking to go. TJ Hawkinson.
My guy.
I have him 20. I don't know why I'm still low on this guy. You have him 15, and then the ECR has him 20. The reason why I ranked Hawk 20 is because I don't believe in the Detroit Lions at all.
Yeah, that's
fair. And that's the only reason. There's just sometimes you have a feeling on a guy and you just roll with it. TJ Hawkinson's extremely talented. I want him to succeed, and I hope they utilize him similar to Gronk, because if he does that, he's going to be really good. Like he could be. Here's the thing with TJ Hawkinson that I just want to get out the way. He was a top 10 pick. If he turned if there's any tight end, like as much as I like Noah Fant, if there is a rookie tight end in any class that is going to break out, it is a top 10 tight end in a draft. And TJ Hawkinson, if he succeeds in that offense in Detroit and they utilize him properly, this guy could be. I don't want to jump. I don't want to. This sounds like a hot take, but he could be, maybe not this season, but in the next coming seasons, a Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, or George Kittle. That's what this guy's ceiling is.
You take a guy 10th overall, that's the hope.
Yeah.
For sure. I have him really high. I have him 15. Maybe too high. But I believe in the Hawk. For one, I think Matt, like comparing him to Noah Fant,
Yeah.
which I shouldn't do because I like both those guys, but I think Matt Stafford, the Lions offense, I don't trust it either. I honestly can't blame you for that. But I do like Matt Stafford.
I hate that he wins.
I think Matt Stafford's a pretty decent quarterback.
Yeah, he's better than Joe Flacco.
He's better than Joe Flacco for sure. I think, the opportunity is going to be there. There is no Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah.
There is no guy like that. I think, Kenny Golladay is a nice receiver.
Golladay. Sorry.
Golloway. Don't matter to me.
Golloway.
He's a good receiver with good upside, but I don't think he's anything crazy.
Right.
I mean, they're going to use him. I think they will use him like Gronk. And if they do that, he has top 10 potential for this year, top 10 fantasy potential.
Not even top 5.
I mean, honestly, rookie, to have a rookie tight end be top 5, I don't know.
That's true.
But yeah, I mean, he's going undrafted, I think, in a lot of leagues. So if you pick him up as even just like a waiver wire pickup to play him on week-to-week spots, I don't think that'd be a bad idea at all.
No, it's not.
I mean, I just got a big hawk in my shorts. I can't lie.
The number 20 and the final the final tight end on our tight end rankings is Kyle Rudolph.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed.
I like Kyle Rudolph. I don't know why he's ranked so
I like
low.
him if he's on the Patriots.
19 on my rankings, 20 on your rankings, 18 on ECR. I'm going to confirm that is correct.
I think it is.
That's tough if it is. Number 18, Kyle Rudolph.
That does feel a little low.
That does feel very low, considering that he was one of the better tight ends coming into last year. No, he didn't. I think that's more the fact of who they have at quarterback than anything else. I do like Kyle Rudolph. If this man gets traded to New England,
he jumps.
Oh yeah, he goes up to like top 4.
He might be fourth.
Easily, he is fourth.
But then, dude, Ben Watson though is going to take his snaps.
Yeah, not for the first 4 weeks. He was too busy taking drugs.
So Kyle Rudolph is interesting.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the Vikings are in a very weird spot, especially with the passing game.
Right.
Where Diggs and Thielen will get most of the targets, you feel like. So it kind of leaves Rudolph as the odd man out. But he could be a good sleeper because he's getting drafted, undrafted. It seems like the spot that he's in right now. I have him 20th, you have him 19. So if you like Rudolph, again, any of these tight ends, really any of the guys we've talked about today, I mean, I
think Rudolph, it's just situation.
Yeah.
I think if he was to get traded to a situation with a better quarterback, like if this guy was to get traded to, I mean, obviously this would hurt Jared Cook, but if he was to get traded to like New Orleans, or he was to get traded to Green Bay or something like that,
Green Bay, yeah.
we
didn't even bring up Jimmy Graham, but
automatically, yeah, he would probably be in our top 25, but automatically Kyle Rudolph becomes a top 5 tight end if he goes to one of those situations. Yeah. I think for him, it's just, and the reason why he had a bad season is just because, who's their quarterback? Case Keenum? I can't remember.
Kirk Cousins, bro.
Kirk Cousins, sorry.
Mr. Contract.
He is, Mr. Contract. Kirk Cousins is a game managing quarterback. He doesn't really do.
It's weird because in the beginning of the year, Kirk Cousins was actually performing really well.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, here come the Vikings, just right again, and then they just collapsed. So
yeah. I think also a lot of the targets that Kirk Cousins throws, I don't know why I said Case Keenum.
Yeah, boss.
Taking it back to like 2016. But I think the thing with Kirk Cousins is that he throws the ball a ton to Diggs and
he also does a lot of screens.
He does throw a lot of screens. So the tight end position is not really fully utilized. There is rumors floating around that Kyle Rudolph is going to
get traded,
re-up at this point.
Get traded.
They've been negotiating their 5-year deal or whatever. I hope he
gets traded.
Yeah,
I really
hope he gets traded.
I
want him to go to the Pats. Give him a first-round pick. I don't give a flip.
Okay,
he's
I'm not sure about that.
Let's relax. No, but if Kyle Rudolph ends up on a team, he gets traded and ends up on a team with a good quarterback and a good situation, then I think definitely move him up your draft board. But as of
what
right
about
now,
like Seattle? That'd be cool.
That would actually be a good destination. But if he stays where he is, then I don't see him going. Like, he might finish top 15, but I don't see much upside for Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah.
That'll do it for our rankings, our 2019 early draft rankings for this year. We gave you the top 20 at every friggin' position. And at some point when our website launches, we will give you all of our rankings at every position in full, so you can pore over those and dissect them and decide whether we were right or wrong. For true.
Yeah, and then you can rub it in our face.
Next week is our official
Dun, da, da, da.
first mock draft of 2019.
Gonna be lit.
We'll do a live mock draft on Tuesday, and it should be very exciting. We'll get to draft for you guys live and show you exactly who we will be taking at certain segments, and then you can tell us if our team sucks.
Yeah.
You got any closing thoughts for us, boss?
Oh, dude, we forgot.
Oh, no.
We're supposed to rank kickers.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't do our top 20 kickers.
We'll do kickers next week, bro.
Okay.
See you later, guys.
Peace out.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.